Thank you all for coming. My name is Josh Serfass. I'm actually business development at VRIFY. And today we're going to talk a little bit about our AI platform. Anyone familiar with machine learning and exploration? Seen any of the products out there? Perfect. There's four things that really set us apart when it comes to our AI exploration platform. One, it's leveraging your full data set. So typically on an average exploration program, you're using less than 5% of your data when you're going out to target and look for new mineral systems. So things like multi-element assaying are often not included. Some of the subtleties in geophysics and mag, which will allow you to create things like lineament density and lineament complexity maps. What we're able to do with Dora is bring all that data in and let you use it to help look for mineralized trends that maybe are not in line with how you're thinking about the project. We're not trying to replace geologists. What we're really trying to do is challenge thinking and open up insights into new targets. The second thing that we're really focused on at VRIFY is removing the black box of AI. We hear a lot about AI. It's a black box. You don't understand what's driving your targets. What we do is create explainable results. So we actually create tables called feature importance tables that actually show the data that's going into the target. It's rooted in geoscience. It allows the geologist, your technical team, to look at those SHAP labels, those feature importance labels, and really understand what's driving those targets. Third, we're giving the power to the client. There are other AI solutions out there. They typically operate as a technical report without a lot of insight into what's driven the targets and really a one-time exercise. We've created Dora. Dora is a web interface that allows the client to go in, adjust parameters, and then run our algorithms to help them target and look for new mineralized trends on their project. And then the fourth thing that really makes us different is it's not one time. It's an iterative process. It's a 12-month period where you can ingest as much data as you want. You can have as many seats on the platform as your team needs. And the idea behind that is that projects evolve. As you collect more data, as you drill, things are going to start to appear, and we don't want our product to just be a one-time offering. Send us that data, reiterate over your project, and then visualize it, explain it, and talk about it. We use a unique method at VRIFY called Vision Transformers. Think ChatGPT, which is learning off of language. Vision Transformers learns off of images. So we're taking all of the geological data a client has, we're rasterizing it, we're anonymizing it, and then we're removing the geo-references, and we're creating large data stacks. With Vision Transformers, we're actually able to create pre-trained models. So we currently have 10 pre-trained models, ranging from orogenic gold to epithermal polymetallic, lithium pegmatite, and then the universal model, which is untrained. How we train these models is that when we work with a new orogenic project, for example, we're going to ingest that data and place it into the orogenic gold model. So as these models grow, they get smarter. Orogenic currently has 50,000 training images in it, and we have 171,000 total training images in the platform currently. This slide is slightly out of date. These are some of the places we're working. We now have 2 additional projects in Europe. We have a project in Saudi Arabia and then multiple projects in North and South America and Australia. And really the mantra for us is that we do not believe the easy stuff has been found. Obviously, this is what mining we often talk about, we often hear about, is that we need to go deeper, we need to go more remote. We believe that the easy stuff is probably actually on existing projects. And from an environmental perspective, from a permitting perspective, from a logistics perspective, the best place to find a new mine is next to an existing mine or in an existing mining camp. And I'll give you an example that we are very close to because it was a company we worked on, but it really hits home for us that we're not leveraging our data and understanding really what the potential could be on our project. So I'm going to jump to a project in Quebec that I worked on, and so did the CEO of VRIFY, called the Lamaque project. This was located in the prolific Abitibi, just outside the town of Val-d'Or. So we as a company started in 2012 on the mining side before starting VRIFY. We actually had the asset on the south side of the street here called the Lamaque project. It had operated since the 1940s, shut down in the early 2000s due to gold price and really depleting resource. We came in 2012, made a discovery, and slowly acquired the project across the street, which was the past-producing Sigma asset. Sigma was owned by Placer Dome, had a very similar history of Lamaque, operated since the 1940s, was a large underground exploration, very high grade. The two assets operated within a few kilometers of each other, never shared data. So you can see on the left side of your screen here is the Lamaque mine. It went down to about 1,000 meters. And when you look at it in comparison to the Sigma mine, they were operating right next door. Very similar operation in terms of production and value. Sigma went down 2,000 meters. When we acquired this project, everyone had thought there was nothing left here. It had been overexplored, resource had been depleted. We came in and drilled on the southern claim boundary, something that we don't always do in mining. And we made a discovery called the Triangle Deposit. The Triangle Deposit is, again, only a few kilometers from these past producing assets, Sigma and Lamaque. And Triangle was under essentially a swamp, and no one had gone in and drilled in this area because it was, again, close to the southern claim boundary and under this area that was essentially only drillable in the winter. Triangle got to critical mass. We were acquired by Eldorado in 2017. This is the infrastructure that now exists in that swampy area where they're currently producing about 200,000 ounces of high-grade gold a year. Eldorado did something unique when they started producing. They initially were bringing the ore up to surface, driving it across the roads and bringing it to that Sigma mill for processing. They decided to run a decline across the property and install a conveying system. When they did that, they made another discovery called Ormac. Ormac is due to go into production next year. But again, why does this matter? It really goes back to the mantra of what we're trying to do with VRIFY AI, which is the easy stuff has not been found. So how does this work? It's quite simple, to be honest. We're essentially taking your data, we're taking public data, we're augmenting it, and then we're using it to allow you to target, to iterate, and look for new mineralized trends. So this is an example actually quite close to Lamaque. This is a group called Cartier Resources. They've given us the okay to talk about the project that they're working on. They just launched a 100,000 meter drill program. Of that, they've committed 25,000 meters to actually testing the targets that were generated using Dora. The steps are pretty simple. Essentially, we establish an area of interest. What's the largest land package we're going to be looking at? And we first grab all public data that exists. This is typically in places like Canada, Australia, North America, easy to access. We can go scrape that. We rasterize it into 2D images like you see on your screen, and we create these images that will go in and what the vision transformers, the algorithm we use, will look for patterns in. Now, the public data that's not available, we've become quite a key at finding it. So we're actually working for a company here in Europe. They had no continuous data coverage over the country. Our team went and started looking, and they found actually continuous mag, which the company didn't know existed, and an extensive soil stream sediment layer as well. So it's not just the public data that's easy to access, it's the public data that might take a bit of sleuthing and take some of our team the time to go and find it. The second step is taking in the client's proprietary data. So this is pretty common in a mining project. You have disparate data sets. So you might have a high-res mag or a high-res geophys over a certain part of the project, but not over the entire continuous data package. And what we do in this step, this is a big part of the process for us, is we actually have a data augmentation step where we're going to take that data and we're going to look to extrapolate it into the unknown. So we use machine learning techniques to learn from high-res geophysics studies that maybe don't cover the full project package, and we'll use that machine learning to extrapolate it into the unknown. We'll also do things like lineament mapping. So if you have a gridded mag survey, for example, we're going to pull some of the subtleties out of that gridded mag and create additional data sets to train the model on. So this is an example of a gridded mag. We'll then create a lineament density map and then a structural complexity map. And those data sets will then go into Dora and be used for targeting. On average, we typically 2x or 3x the data for the client. So from their data, we're doubling it or tripling it through these various steps. And it's not just data augmentation, or it's not just lineaments, it's not just extrapolations, it's anomaly detections, it's strike field maps, it's distance to structures. All of these things are done through the modules we've built and then brought into Dora to help you train. So once we've established that step, we're now left with what we call a continuous data stack. So this is the continuous data stack for Cartier. So it's all of that data that we've created, all of the public data and all of the proprietary data extended over their land package. And then essentially how the algorithm works is quite simple. We look to assign a binary question. And to assign that binary question, we need to use something that has been assayed. So it can be trenching, but typically what we use is drill holes or drill assays. So in this case, there was a large drill assay. There was a large library of assays and drill holes at Cartier. Here's what you see on the screen. And you assign the grade, the threshold that you want to look for. So in this case at Cartier, we assigned a 0.5 gram per ton gold. Everything above 0.5 becomes a positive learning point, becomes a mineralized hit, which is what the green here represents. Everything below 0.5 becomes a negative training point. And that's what you see in red here. So that in this exercise, we're considering everything 0.5 unmineralized. And then once we've done that, Vision Transformers works sort of in a cell system. So if these white dots that I'm putting on the screen are your positive learning point, so above that 0.5 threshold, it's going to place a cell around that positive hit, and then it's going to go up and down through the data and look for patterns within that full data set. During this exercise, we also do a back testing where we're removing 20% of the knowns, running the algorithm, returning the knowns to the model to see how well the algorithm is working. Is it predicting where we know you have mineralization? And then once we do that, we'll create targets. We create both 2D targets, as you see on the screen here, but because we're using subsurface data, in this case drill holes, we can also create 3D targets, so targets below surface. The way to read this map is, this prospectivity map, is the taller the tower, the brighter the color, the higher probability of hitting mineralization. So what we're trying to do here is assign risk. What is the risk of drilling this target? And for investors here, for mining companies, that's a really powerful tool because you want to understand what is the likelihood if I put a drill hole in the ground here that I'm actually going to hit mineralization. As I said, we do back testing. So we want to understand, is the algorithm working well? And so in this case, this isn't the R squared that we create, but this is sort of the visual gut test. So obviously we have a strong target here. And that's what we want to see because it's aligned with the knowns. So we can see just visually right off the bat before we even look at the R squared or the confusion matrix that we actually the algorithm is predicting the knowns very, very well. As I mentioned, we also create 3D targets. So you saw the surface targets, but then you also have these 3D targets. And this is one that the client is quite interested in because it's a target to the south of their known trend where they have their mineralization. And if you look at it on plan, it looks very similar in terms of the dips and the shoots that you're getting in the knowns. So this is one of the targets that they do plan on testing with that 25,000 meters. Now this is the key for the technical team, this is removing the black box that I mentioned earlier. So this is what we call a feature importance table. And this is where it's showing you the geological layers that are driving this target. And it's allowing a geologist to say, yes, this makes sense, or no, this doesn't make sense. Let's rerun the iteration. So the way to read this, it's quite simple. It's ordered in importance for driving that target. So in this case, bedding strike field is 27% of the target, then the viscosity strike field, and then you get into the mag 1VD, and so on and so on. Essentially, everything to the right of this dashed line is associated with positive mineralization, and everything to the left is associated with negative mineralization. And then the color is just the high or low value of the data set. So in this case, it's bedding in a high value, viscosity in a low value. And we generate these for each target depending on the cluster size. So it's not just a single label for the entire model. We do produce that, but you can look at individual targets and understand what are the geological features that are going in to drive that target. And then you can use that for a variety of things. If the confidence is very high, you can go drill it. If you see a certain type of data layer is driving this target, maybe you go collect more of that. So we have clients that are really doing both sides of the coin there, where they're like, we're going to go out and drill this. And then we have ones that are like, let's go collect more data, bring it into Dora, rerun it to see if that target remains redundant, to see if this table remains pretty similar. So the big question we get obviously often is, does it work? So we've had a few companies go out and drill these targets successfully and press release them. The first was Southern Cross Gold, which is in Victoria, Australia. A target appeared just to the east of their known drill targets. They drilled that in September of last year and hit in their first couple drill holes. Rua Gold just announced a few months ago, they drilled a blind target in New Zealand, a bit south of some of their known targets, and hit on the first 3 drill holes. And then we have groups like Cantera Resources. Cantera is a smaller company. It's a base metal project in Newfoundland. And they were sort of always focused on drilling this area. This is where they have a resource called the Buckens Project. And so their resource is right in this area. When we started working with them, we discovered this target called the new target just southwest of where they were drilling. Initially, the team asked us, like, this is interesting. Why is that coming up? We went back through the records, or I should say they went back to the records, and they discovered that actually 2 previous operators, so the people that really started working this project, that's where they wanted to start drilling at the new target. But they had kind of continued to map, found outcrop up near Buckens, drilled there, and completely forgot about this target. So there's actually no positive learning points in that area. So this is being generated by what it's learning from the knowns at the deposit. What Cantera did, which is pretty unique, is they decided before we drill this, we're going to go do a 3D IP survey. So they completed that 3D IP survey in the fall, and they're actually now drilling this target currently. And obviously we'll know soon how well that drilling turned out. I know I'm out of time. I can take a few questions, or I have a table back there. Happy to talk further about the Dora platform, our AI platform, and how we're helping companies leverage their data and look for new mineralization. Thank you.